Hello, everyone, and welcome to another DMI Team Talk. This is Sean Kenny here, Membership Manager at DMI, and today we are looking at a guide to chatbots. So we're going to walk through the kind of current state of chatbots, the different types, and which might be applicable to your own business. To begin, we're just going to run through some simple statistics, both for businesses and for consumers of chatbots, and just kind of look at the main ways in which they affect the customer journey and actually how they affect businesses, their budgets, and how they organize their digital marketing. First, running through these business statistics, we see that the main industries that use chatbots and have them in place currently are finance, healthcare, education, travel, and real estate. We see that 80% of businesses project to integrate some form of chatbot into their system by the end of this year. We see that chatbots help businesses save up to 30% of their customer support costs. So cost is a big driver usually for chatbots. The market value of chatbots has grown year on year, almost exponentially. It was 703 million back in 2016, and it's already over 17 billion. And in fact, you can see that number is taken from last year. So we're probably approaching something like 19, 20 million. More than 50% of customers actually anticipate that businesses are open 24/7 when they have an online presence, and chatbots help fulfill that. Chatbots are popular among millennials and baby boomers. So there are some misconceptions that only maybe younger people will be savvy enough to use chatbots, but in fact, we see that's actually not true. It suits all demographics of consumers. And we see there are approximately today 400,000 active chatbots on Facebook alone. So we're just taking one social media channel. So we see that they're everywhere at the moment already. We are going to look at different types of chatbots, and we see that particularly on Facebook and social channels, it's the more simplistic ones. But if we turn for a moment to look at user experience statistics, this may also sway your mind in terms of how important chatbots are. So we see 69% of consumers prefer chatbots because they're available with quick replies to simple questions. And this links into a number of stats below. 95% of consumers believe that customer service will benefit the most from chatbots. 56% of consumers prefer actually to deal with a chatbot than they do ringing in and calling someone on support. And that relates back to the first point. 67% of customers globally reported using a chatbot for customer service in the past year. So we're actually seeing 2/3 of people are already engaging with these. And 37% of consumers expect to receive quick responses during emergencies. Emergencies here would be something like relating to a product return or a refund. So we're not talking about, say, medical emergencies, of course, but 33% of consumers would like to use chatbots to make reservations, place online orders, and other functions. And this relates back to the very first point we made, the industries that are using chatbots the most, such as hospitality. They have set menus, it's very, or should be very easy to book, and people like the simplicity of using a chatbot to do that. But now that we've established that chatbots are indeed important, let's kind of have a look at the types of chatbots that there are. And there's really mainly four main categories here, as outlined on the slide. And which type of chatbot suits your business or your team or the company that you own is really going to depend on a number of factors, such as your budget, your types of consumers, and your type of business or your product or your service. But we see here a bot is simply a computer program that automates certain tasks. That's all a bot is. And a chatbot is just doing that in a kind of chat function. So typically by chatting with the user through a conversational interface. So the main types of chatbots are, and we're going to take a look at each, menu or button-based chatbots, linguistic-based, more commonly known as rule-based chatbots, keyword recognition-based chatbots, machine learning or AI chatbots, and then voice bots we can add in, but they're actually very similar to all of the above, just layering in a kind of voice option. So as it says here also before we move on, most chatbots out there are actually a hybrid of two or three of the above. They're using menu options, they're using language recognition and so on. So we'll see that actually in our examples. But to start with menu button-based chatbots, these are the most basic, and as you will see from this slide, which is taken from Facebook, they're most common actually on social channels. So I mentioned 400,000 bots alone on Facebook chatbots, and this is a perfect example of a simple menu-based chatbot that you will find on Facebook. So the consumer comes through, they have a very very simple query, which is just about ordering rice in this case, as you can see on the slide, and it's just laying out options. And what menu button based chatbots do is simply filter traffic or queries or complaints or anything really to do at the top of the funnel down to the correct team or person or landing page or subscription or whatever it might do. So they're actually simplifying the journey of the consumer by presenting them with options so that they can direct that person in the right place. And that's very simply where they're most effective. And you can think of certain type of businesses where this would be highly relevant. They're also, as it says here, great for answering FAQs. So that kind of feeds into saving you time on your customer service, for example. And here is an example of just a larger example that's clearer to see on the screen, but it's menu button based. Someone comes through and immediately they're presented with options. Do you want to ship internationally? Do you want to know why the prices are so low? Or do you want to track your order? It's a real simple customer service led button option. Now we move on to linguistic based, or as I said before, more commonly known rule based chatbots. Now, these chatbots differ because they add in a layer of complexity. What you're doing with these is you're creating conversational flows, as it says here, and they actually require you to plan each permutation and combination of what the user might ask. And as it says here again, for this reason, they can be slow to develop. There can be a lot of work that needs to go into these. The image that you're seeing here on the slide is sort of demonstrating this. You're trying to predict when someone uses a certain keyword what they want from you or what they want to know. So in this flow outlined on this slide, the user has typed in, what time do you open on Friday? And what's happening here is the bot is picking up on the keyword time and it's presuming operational hours and it's throwing out a response that's programmed in there. We are open from 9 to 5. So you can see how these chatbots would fail quite often. If someone came in and they had a query and it used the word time and it wasn't related to operational hours and you had no other options built in here, you're going to get the answer wrong here for the user. So while these are a viable option for a lot of businesses, there's really a lot of pre-planning and prediction that needs to go in to make these work, go in beforehand. And knowing your customer, knowing your business, and spending quite a lot of time with even previous sales conversations or previous emails is going to help you build these out. And we're looking at an example of a very successful one here. This is Domino's Pizza using this. And what they're doing is they're looking at the keywords which you can see in blue, and they're looking at those keywords and they're predicting what it is the customer wants to know. And they're actually, as I referred to previously, they're starting with a variation of a chatbot which is menu based. So this is a hybrid of menu based and keyword recognition. And they're directing the customer through, prompting them for a reply, reading the word that's in their response, and then presuming that it relates to a particular query and throwing out this text that you see here. So also, someone says order and it says awesome. Do you want to place your easy order, most recent order, or a new order? So this is quite a clever use of it. It's actually built into the answer, three more options within the text. But you can see here how this is a combination of the first two types of chatbots that we looked at. Keyword recognition based chatbots, these are generally not pre-programmed, but they can be hybrids also. But these are solely relying on the ability of the chatbot to understand what the person wants from the exact language that they've used. So you can use AI to customize these and to build on the complexity of the response. But we see here in this example, someone comes through and they ask, do you have any Australian Chardonnays under £5? And what in this example, which is actually from Lidl UK, what you can see they can do is they can recognize Australian Chardonnays and under £5 all together as one query. So this is a very kind of complex or more complex example of a chatbot because it's able to recognize all the keywords in here and then it's able to pull out what is probably a relevant answer. And it's also integrating here a menu as well, so you can see. So this is another hybrid, but it's building upon the other two, and it's using more sophistication, and it's actually bringing in AI as well. So there's a lot of overlap between the first two and actually what we're going to look at in a moment. But here's another example of it, keyword recognition. The person is simply types in lipstick, and there's a pre-programmed response, or it's actually picking up on that particular word. What finish do you want your lipstick to have? Someone types in another keyword, creamy, and it links that back or recognizes that, and then says which feature do you want to have in your lipstick. So it kind of poses the question in a different way because it doesn't quite fully understand what the customer wants yet. So it's able to keep a conversation going and get closer and closer to the eventual answer that the customer wants. Now, if we look at machine learning chatbots, these particular chatbots, and they could also be known as AI chatbots, they're actually able to remember conversations from all previous customers that have happened through the same system. So, like all AI, there's almost a learning ability here with these chatbots. They can look through successful chats that were rated with high customer service ratings, for example, versus low ones, and they can begin to build a picture of what people want when they ask certain types of questions. So they're very sophisticated. They're also very expensive in most cases, and they only suit certain types of businesses. For example, if you have a very simple service, let's say you own a hotel, you maybe don't want to be using AI led chatbots because the queries you get through on your website are maybe always about room bookings or availability. So you can use menu based or keyword recognition chatbots there to do a great job. These chatbots, their their plus, if you like, is that they can really mimic human conversation given enough time and enough work. But the downside is obviously they are maybe too complex, or they are more sufficient than you need if you have a very simple business. But this is very simply what AI does. It's self-learning, and it's bringing in past conversations, learning and developing and improving its answers. So the current uses of AI in chatbots. Basically, it provides improved customer service by integrating machine learning with other types of chatbots. AI chatbots can learn to send emails, chat messages, and follow up on their own, so they can actually commit further actions based on the conversation. If someone comes through and they're requiring information, it can identify what type of information it wants most likely and actually send on a follow-up email, for example. Rule-based chatbots are a popular e-commerce tool, but AI has advanced all of this significantly, and you'll actually see a rise of AI as the cost comes down, most likely. And one thing to flag here and just develop on is AI actually uses what's known as NLP, which is natural language processing. And just to develop that idea for a second, NLP is what allows machines to learn how to understand language because it's comparing masses of examples, as I said before. So the machines are able to identify certain patterns and then apply those patterns to new language that they're inputting or deriving themselves. Very simply, though, the goal of an NLP chatbot is to offer an informative answer, almost human-like, maintain the context of the dialogue. So in other words, when someone throws a spanner in the works and they have a complex question, it's still able to handle that. It still has that capability to understand. And as the last point is more or less a summary of everything I've said, it's just to be indistinguishable from a human. So high level quality conversational answers. 80% of customers want their chat queries answered quickly. So AI chatbots is going to go a great way to being able to do this because we used some statistics before about people not wanting to make a phone call and so on. Whereas if you have a chatbot that's very comprehensive and can give a very detailed answer, it's going to save you a lot of resources in the long run, a lot of time, a lot of customer support efforts, but it's going to leave a lot of your customers satisfied, or as we can see here, 80% of customers who want quick replies to queries. And just quickly to look at voice bots. Voice bots are actually not in and of themselves a different category of chatbot. They're using the other technologies and just layering in this other kind of additional kind of feature to it, which is being able to use your voice. So as it says here on the slide, voice bots offer convenience more so than anything. You're able to talk to your device and interact with the bot. A voice activated chatbot brings frictionless experience directly to the end user for this reason. But as we can see here from this diagram, really all a VoiceBot does is it takes the voice input, it converts that to text, and then it goes into a normal dialogue flow on the back end of the bot, that so whether it's language based or whether it's AI, it's really just taking the same algorithm, same features already what you've built, taking that voice message that's already converted to text and then giving a voice output. So it's just really think of it as voice bots as being their feature being that they can actually convert voice to text really. But with Alexa and things like Google Nest now becoming more popular, we're seeing a rise in voice bots to kind of service people in the way that they want. So the overall question is, after we've outlined all this, is which is best for your business? If you're working in a company that doesn't yet have chatbots, or you're working in a very small company that wants to test them for the first time, there's a lot of different questions to ask yourself. So think of the following think of the following factors, starting with the customer journey. What is your budget? Because chatbots can range to over $300,000, but also you can get very simplistic ones on a subscription for something like, let's say, $10 a month. What is your overall objective? Is it sales or is it customer service? That will dictate which type of chatbot is going to suit you best. How complex is your product or service? I touched on this before, but making a booking with a hotel is a lot more simple than trying to decide what digital marketing course is best for you. You may have a lot of questions there in the latter example. Are you suitable? What type of work is involved? What's on the syllabus? How long is the course? When is the test? And so on and so on. So you need a more sophisticated chatbot for this type of product or service. Ask yourself, what stage of the funnel does it make sense to actually use the chatbot? Now, I've used an example here of a car dealership, but so with a car dealership, you're always really going to want to speak to a human and see the car before you purchase. So a chatbot's never going to replace those two things: the experience, the product test, and speaking with someone on site. So really, in that type of business, that doesn't mean chatbots are not necessary. It just means they fit in at the top of the funnel. When you first come through the website, you want to know whereabouts the showroom is, or you want to know what time the showroom's open at. So you see, for that type of business, if we use that as a mini case study, it might just be that you want a menu-based chatbot. Also ask yourself, what channels do your customers engage with the most? If it's Facebook, for example, well, you have very easy to build options built into Facebook. Whereas if most of your traffic comes through a website, you're going to maybe go out, you need to go out and get something bespoke or a plugin from a website. So let's take WordPress, for example. They have many bot plugins. So you might start there and looking through those options. But just be mindful before you go out and tell your team or tell your manager you're going to or want to implement chatbots. You need to go through all these questions and see which type makes sense first. If you are looking at options, I've listed off here a bunch of the most popular ones, and they range from Intercom to Drift to Zendesk, Salesforce, Ada, Imbeta. But all of these options, while they're market leaders, you really need to dig in here and research and see which ones suit you best. Some are on subscription, some help self builds, some are straight off the shelf ready to use in a certain way. So I've left in another point here. If you have built your website with something like WordPress, and I mentioned this a moment ago, but you have a lot of plugin options too. So you might not start with these companies that specialize in CRM tools and chatbots. The overall pros of using chatbots, what are they good for? Instant customer service, helpful in increasing customer satisfaction. They help businesses by reducing the labor force cost in those particular areas, such as customer service. And they can be they can have multi purposes, and you have numerous types, so they can serve different parts of the funnel. They also promote what is increasingly important, conversational marketing. So in an age of digital communication with a lot of images and a lot of text, they actually help you stand out from the crowd. They also allow you or help you provide around the clock service. So even when your office is closed and everyone has all their laptops switched off and their phones off, you can still have a bot working in the background on your website. And they work across multiple platforms, as we've already seen, whether that be social, they can be automatically directing you towards email, they can be on your website 24/7. There's really a lot of different ways to implement them. The cons of chatbots overall, generally, what are they? At times, the responses are limited and they fall short of real human communication and sophistication of conversation. The responses are hard to improvise. So if someone comes through with some unusual query or something very specific, it's hard for the chatbot to improvise or to work around a difficult situation that it's not pre-programmed to do. Their high functioning chatbots can be expensive. So even the chatbots that help us with the previous 2 points, they can be really expensive. We've seen a figure there of 300,000 plus. That was an average figure of AI builds, sophisticated ones. They can be even higher than that again. So they're just not suitable for some small businesses. They lack understanding of natural language currently, and that's in its full sense. What we discussed NLP, which is always developing and it's actually getting quite good, but really in the full sense of how a human can understand language. So if someone misspells a word, or they are using a word in a different type of context that's not usually used in, or they're using slang and so on and so on, chatbots can fall short here. And they might not suit all business models or stages of the funnel. So there's certain businesses you just really don't need a chatbot, and that might be it might be because your service or your product is so complex that a chatbot is never going to deal with the general queries that you get through. And it could be a whole range of things, really. It might just depend on how you sell. Is it really based around live events and so on? So have a think about that and actually if you need them. And some customers actually may already have chatbot fatigue. Depends on the industry. Look at your competitors, see what they're doing with chatbots, and decide, is there a way for you to do it a little bit differently to cut down on fatigue? And just before I leave you, we would always suggest further reading from the DMI library. So here's kind of three recent pieces of work that we have up there that will help you understand this whole topic in more detail. So we have a podcast with our expert Paul Ace on chatbots and conversational marketing. That's a real deep dive into this subject, which we've only really touched on today. We've got an article there about 6 brands using chatbots effectively. So it's essentially a case study in the form of an article, and it goes into 6 particular companies who are really thriving using chatbots. And then we have another article by Larry Kim on Facebook messaging and chatbots. We touched on that today, but it's a much deeper dive and we'll give you a lot more information. I hope you find this useful. I hope if you're thinking about chatbots, it informs you and points you in the right direction. But until the next time, have a great day, have a great time. Check out the DMI website for more information, and we hope to see you all soon. Take care.